cinnamon basil, and yes, if you're wondering, it does smell like cinnamon. And I wanted to do a review video today on these Amazon raised beds. This is not a paid promotion or anything. My mom actually got these for me as a gift, and while they were on sale. They go on sale periodically through the week. They've got, I don't remember exactly which one this was, but I will link it in the description. But it was a 2-pack galvanized tin raised beds. They're not sharp. These are 6 foot by 1 foot by 3 foot, I think is the width. I had never really had raised beds before because I hadn't been able to afford it. We mostly do in-ground gardening here just because that's what's been available to us. After having these two for the last couple of months and seeing how well they do, I think I'm going to switch a lot of the things that I grow over to raised beds because they do amazing. Because you can control what soil you put in, and the weed management is so much better because you don't start out with like a seed bed, you know, like you would in the ground, and there's constantly seeds and weeds coming up. Seeds and weeds. There's constantly weeds coming up from the seeds. But with this, you're putting your own soil in, and you know there's not going to be any weeds in there. Not to say that weeds don't come up, but it is easier to weed. You're not like down on the ground as much. I mean, you're still bending, but not like as you would if you were to have the in-ground bed. The plants are super healthy. I will say it's easy to plant too close together because it is limited space, but you can use the square foot gardening method with raised beds and plant a lot of food in a small area. You're not limited to one single row. With raised beds, it is good to have them be like 4 foot across. That way you can reach on all sides, you can reach across. At least to the middle. If I'm on this side, I can at least reach to the middle over here. Same thing goes for the other side. I really wanted these specifically for my basil garden, which is doing amazing. Actually, I had planted them way too close together because I forgot how big basil got. They were getting really bushy, and I was afraid that they wouldn't grow to their full potential if I left them in there crowded. I mean, everything that I have put in here has thrived. You can see this back here. This is one Cosmo. I've never had a Cosmo get this big. And then this is Mammoth Dill. There's another Cosmo. There's a pepper plant hiding in there under all of this. I have a big chamomile plant in here, which I'll show you in just a second. I had never successfully grown chamomile. It's doing amazing in here. I have a centiflora tomato plant, which is like a cherry tomato, but it has literally thousands of blossoms on it. I'd never grown it before this year, but the blossom head on it is insanely... I've never seen something like it before in my life. And I can't wait to see what fruit comes off of it. I have a marigold, which is probably the biggest marigold I've ever grown. Kind of regretting planting it so close to my tomato plant because they're both getting huge. I've got a lime green zinnia and an Alaska nasturtium. which is probably my favorite thing that I've planted in here so far, other than the Tulsi basil. The Alaska nasturtium is a variegated, and it's beautiful. It hasn't even flowered yet, and it's beautiful. This is probably my favorite garden bed out of everything that I have planted this year. And we've got big gardens over on the other property. I've got tomato garden out back, and this has just brought me so much joy. I have another one over here, which I've mainly just transplanted some of the basil over here because I didn't want them to be too crowded in here. I'll give you a close-up look of what I've got grown in here. I'm not completely done with these beds because I'm going to put a cattle panel trellis between them. I have an extra cattle panel and I wanted to grow some cucumbers. So in this bed, I've got some zinnias growing along the edge. This is just regular sweet basil. Actually, I think this is lettuce leaf basil. This is blue spice basil. Blue spice basil is delicious if you've never tried it. I highly suggest it. It's got like a vanilla flavor. These two seedlings were doing horrible. I don't know. I'll give you an update on my basil project, because you can go back and look at all of the different kinds of basil that I had planted. I planted, I think it was like 10 different types. The only one that just did not even make a plant, not even one, was the spicy round globe, the spicy globe basil. That's what it was. That one did not even grow one seed. I've been trying to start more, and I just haven't had any success with it. I have other new basil seed packets that I just got in the mail. If you want to check that out, you can see my last video about my seed haul. You can see all the different kinds of new basil that I got. I think I got like 4 different new types of basil in the mail. But these two were tiny compared to the others. I mean, like 2 little tiny leaves. And I put them in there and they're doing better. This one was Baker Creek. It was a EVV Noir. I know I'm saying that wrong. It's supposed to have like a peppery smell to it. And then the lemon basil, it wasn't doing very great at all, but they're catching up, and I'm confident that they will get as big as the other ones. They just needed some time, I reckon. But out of all those seeds that I planted, those two did the worst, other than the spicy globe, which did not even germinate. These I traded for some tomato plants. This is Greek basil, and it smells really good. This looks like it's going to be like a bushing variety, like a really round, like globe variety. And then this is the spicy saber, so it's not the globe, but it is a spicy variety of basil. Over here I have more sweet basil. This one's really big. The Tulsi basil, which I've been harvesting every single day for my lemonade. Tulsi basil, they say that it has hints of like a bubblegum smell or a bubblegum flavor. I can see that. It's unlike anything that I've tasted before. It's delicious. I mean, you just have to experience it for yourself. It makes lemonade out of this world. And basil is supposed to be really good for arthritis pain, and I will say that I have felt better in the last couple weeks since I have been consuming basil on a daily basis. Don't know if that's just coincidence or not, but I thought I would throw that in there. This, look at, I don't know if you can see that tiny little grasshopper. See it? So this is cinnamon basil, and yes, if you're wondering, it does smell like cinnamon. Not like a burning cinnamon, but like a sweet cinnamon, almost like a very mild big red gum. The chewing gum. It's really interesting to see the different types growing next to each other and the different like shaped leaves. Like this is the saber. You see why they call it saber, because of the shape of the leaves. And then this one smells really sweet. And then we got this right here, which is the red Reuben, and it smells really good too. Not to say that there are not weeds, because I can see under here where I haven't been able to get to, there is some grass trying to come up. But it's so easy to pull these compared to pulling them out of like a hard clay dirt bed. Because the soil is so loose and amazing, because you put it in there yourself, you know what's in there. And you can amend and should amend your garden bed, your in-ground garden beds, but it takes years and years and years. This is something that you can get going in a day. I have some silver slicer cucumbers growing here. Sorry for the wind. Hopefully it's not making anything too hard to hear. I just put some succulents inside of a little old metal chicken feeder, and I just think that that's the most adorable thing. Some zinnias planted here. This ginormous Cosmo that I didn't think would get this big. I've never seen Cosmos get that big. Guess I haven't had them in the right kind of soil. I threw an okra seed in here, and it's definitely growing. It's doing great. Here is my centiflora tomato. It is absolutely giant. Not the plant itself, but I want to show you this blossom. That is one cluster. It's gonna focus. That is just one tomato cluster. When I saw that, I was like, oh, well, I understand why they call it the centiflora then, which means thousands. Got this big marigold. I don't remember what kind it is. There's a calendula and an nasturtium, which is my favorite thing ever. It's beautiful. And then my chamomile that I'm gonna have to harvest because it's starting to try to go to seed. The more you harvest something like that, like anything that flowers, the more it's gonna flower. If you let it go to seed, then it thinks its job is done and it just kind of stops producing flowers. And then it took me a couple weeks after I got this bed filled up for me to get this one filled up, because what I had done was scooped up a bunch of dirt from the soil from the chicken yard, filled it most of the way full, and I was a little bit concerned that maybe it would burn the plants, maybe it wasn't composted good enough. I do have mulch on top of it, but still that's a lot of chicken waste. But the plants love it. When I pulled the basil up to replant it into this bed, it had grown way down into the chicken soil and the roots were huge. But I filled it most of the way up with the soil from the chicken yard, and then the rest of the way up with just regular potting soil. And in this bed I've got some more of the basil that I transplanted. Got some calendulas, another basil that a cutting that I rooted. I've got some chives, some more chamomile. I mostly planted this bed in seeds, and they're starting to come up. I've got a couple sunflowers, I've got lettuce seeds, I've got zinnias. Over here though, thing I'm most excited about is the melons that I have on the edge here. They're gonna be like personal sized melons. They are called Sakata's sweet melon, and I think they're like this big, and they're going to taste similar to a honeydew. But I'm gonna have the trellis going between the two beds, and on one side cucumbers, on the other side melons. Don't really plan on saving seeds from those because they're probably going to cross since they're going to be so close to each other. I don't want that to deter anybody from saving seeds because plants are growing close to each other, but I know that I have extra seeds for next year, and I'm not going to worry about saving seeds from those particular plants. If it was just one or the other, then yeah, I would. But since they're going to be growing on the same trellis, it's a little, probably not worth it to me if I do get a cross and then next year I grow something that is inedible. I have a Brad's Atomic Grape tomato growing here, and then a pepper here, which I don't know how to pronounce. The Benquinho Poqui, I don't know how to say it, but I'll put the name of it up on the screen. A little yellow pepper. And then I seeded some tomatillos here because the tomatillos that I had in the pots didn't get them planted out in time, and they didn't make it because you know what happens when you leave plants in pots, seedlings in pots too long. So that was sad, but I got some seeds started in there. We'll see if they do anything. I know it's late in the season to be starting seeds like tomatoes and tomatillos, but like I said in my other video, it's not going to hurt anything for me to go ahead and try. And we love tomatillos. We love green salsa, just cooking them up in various dishes. And then here in front of my house, I've got some different flowers growing. There's some lilies, and there's a little blackberry bush here. I've got some roses and a bunch of weeds too, of course. Who doesn't have them? I'm not quite sure what this is. It's a some sort of flower bulb that I got at big box store last year. This is a black-eyed Susan. I've got a couple other little chamomile plants growing here, and a hosta, and some marigolds, some bee balm, some comfrey. I don't remember what this one is either. It's another one of those bulbs that I just got and put in the ground. There's a bunch of volunteer calendula. I had a bunch of calendula growing here last year and it volunteered itself, and I left the seeds. And the plants are doing wonderful. And then this is a rose bush that I planted last year when my grandmother passed away. I planted a few roses and only 2 of them made it through winter. I'm not sure what happened there, but this giant catnip plant, all the catnip that's grown here on the property, I have found it growing wild near the house, and my great grandmother used to live just right in the next yard over there. When my dad was little, they used to sell catnip, like harvest and sell it. I like to think that the catnip that I have found and replanted was from catnip that they had planted generations ago. And here is my strawberry bed. They're still alive. They're still kicking. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to show y'all today. I wanted to give you a review. I know I just have been talking about what's planted in them so far. I will say I would give them 2 thumbs up. The issue, I wouldn't say issue, putting it together was a bit annoying. It was very hot that day and it was a little finicky to get together, and also do it on a cloudy day because that tin is so bright, it will just sun blind you trying to get it put together. Other than it being a little bit finicky getting put together, I would say all in all it was worth what was paid for it. I think it was like $75 for these 2 beds. They're made well, they're made with quality materials, and I think that they're really pretty. They do their job. I'm happy with them. If you were looking at the raised beds on Amazon and thinking about giving it a try, like I said, this isn't a paid promotion or anything, but I just thought that since I purchased something that might be of interest of y'all, I'd give my honest review. I like them. I know that you could build, for $75, you could build more than 2 beds, but I didn't have access to a truck or anything to build them, and these are pretty and fast. One day together and filled up and you have a garden. And I know that some people don't have access to tools that you can build raised beds with, or anybody to help you get them put together, so this is a good option for those who want to start gardening and might feel overwhelmed with the idea. I give them thumbs up, and I will keep you guys updated on how they last through the seasons and how they're growing food. So far they're doing a really great job, and if you want to see more garden tours like this, just let me know. This was just a little raised bed showing you what's growing, but we have like 4 other huge gardens I would love to show y'all. And if you have tried out these beds or anything similar, let me know what you think about them, and maybe you've gotten them years ago, and let me know how they hold up. I would say that they would hold up pretty well considering they're just galvanized metal like what we have on our roof. I mean, you can even get roofing tin from Lowe's, which would be cheaper, and you could build these. They would be obviously sharper, and you would have to protect the edges with wood so that nobody would get hurt. But for a ready-made quick garden bed, I'm very pleased with this product. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.